After the passage of the Rhine, Attila sends an army under the command of Wonges to the west. After the capture of the city of Arras, this army disperses and go to the edge of the ocean. Sobia reaches the Seine with its 1,000 horsemen at the end of April, follows the river and reaches the Great Western Ocean. Looking at the waves of the ocean, Sobia remembers his grandfather's stories about the Baikal Sea and the warm Chinese seas. On this occasion he organized a great feast with his warriors. He is already 60 years old and there is not much time left for him to participate in military operations. A former officer of the Roman Imperial Guard has for this festival a few bottles of wine from the banks of the Moselle. He finds Gallic ham and catches the oysters and crabs. His young warriors, most of whom came from Siberia, look with great surprise at how their old commander eats the creatures unknown to them with white wine. Sobia has realized his dream and is happy. He lived a life full of interesting events, protected Italy and Gaul against the barbarians. He now came with his warriors to defend the Princess Honoria, who wished with Attila to establish peace and order on earth. Unfortunately, the unreasonable inhabitants of certain cities, the followers of the traitor and the perjured Aetius, resisted. Fellow soldiers perished. It was necessary to punish and avenge. In this case the warriors become cruel. Indeed, an insubordination to the Khan to whom God has sent the golden sword of victory and expressed so many other signs of his benevolence, or his offense, a insubordination to God and his offense. It was always like that. In heaven there is only one God, and Sobia believes that one day he will be only a sovereign on earth. Then, finally, will reign peace. Attila did a lot for it. Sobia silently wishes that this ruler of the world is Attila or one of his noble sons and drinks his cup to the bottom. Orestes's army with the king Arderic's army was first of all concerned with the destruction of the frontier fortifications on the banks of the Rhine in the center of the Gallic frontier. They took the cities of Strasbourg, Spiers, Worms and Mainz. Then Orestes began the offensive in the north of Gaul, parallel to the army of Wonges to the towns of Laon and Augusta Veromandiorum, St. Quentin. After the capture of these strong resisting cities, all the soldiers and inhabitants were killed. Walls and houses destroyed to their foundations. In order to block the strong garrison of the fortress of Laon erected on a low but steep hill, Orestes devastated the surroundings at a distance of several kilometers, burned all the villages, massacred all the inhabitants who did not have time to escape and even their cattle. For several days, the city suffered the bombardment of the catapults. In the battle next to the city of Augusta Veromandiorum is killed the Frankish king Vast, who became his friend. Orestes does not try to prevent the cruel vengeance of his warriors flooding the city with blood. Looking at the burning city, Orestes thinks of the laws of war. He and his wife are still Roman citizens. They keep real estate and slaves on Roman territory and must inherit rich parents. And now he gives orders to kill other citizens of the Roman Empire of the West. The first great war was against the Eastern Roman Empire, that is to say, against a foreign state. That is why he could quietly give orders to burn the cities. But in this war he fights against his own country. Of course, he is also a Hun, minister and general of Attila. Besides, the Roman generals during many civil wars also destroyed the cities of their empire. But this war is a civil war. There is the Emperor Valentinian, but there is also the Princess Honoria, illegally deprived of the title of Augusta, whose intervention is brought about by Honoria's call to restore justice. The cities, which he destroyed, resisted the order of Aetius. the real master of the Western Roman Empire. But who is this Aetius actually? Only an ungrateful vassal of Attila who has violated all his oaths of fidelity. Without the Huns, nobody today would remember. His head was to be cut 26 years ago with the head of his friend, the Emperor Joannes, or 19 years ago, when he killed Bonifacius with so great a perfidy. In the end, the two Roman empires are only vassal states of the Hun Empire. From this point of view, this war is a legitimate punitive operation against an insurgent puppet. Orestes repeats these arguments once more, and calms himself. Caton too, a great Roman, called to be merciless towards the insurgents, to seize infants and little boys, to snatch children from the arms of their parents, to abandon mothers to the whims of the conquerors, to plunder temples and houses, fire, in short, to fill with tears, death, blood, and mourning. In any case, war is a dirty and cruel affair. The panorama of the burning city changes its thoughts. This city will also be destroyed from top to bottom. The Huns do not want to disperse their forces by the garrisons and waste time in inevitable clashes with the forces of resistance. One of the main aims of the first year of the war is the destruction of the border fortifications along the Rhine and the main fortresses in Northern Gaul. But to the south of the Seine, not all cities will be destroyed. They will not touch those who negotiate with the Huns, pay tribute to them, promise not to raise weapons against them and give hostages. After the taking of Augusta Veromundiorum, Orestes, like the other Hun generals, was ordered to turn his army to the south and to march towards Paris. Attila ascends with his generals and the vassal kings on the hill of Montmartre, and begin to admire the site of Lutici Parisiorum, which is beginning to be called Paris. It is a small, well-fortified town, especially its center, which is located on an island of the Seine. Arrives at a gallop, an officer of recognition, who reports in an astonished voice, Grand Khan. The townspeople behave in an extremely bizarre way. What are they doing? They sing. Indeed, the hot wind of May carries from time to time the sounds of the chorus of a distant choir. All are astounded. Attila asks, "What are they singing?" Confused, the officer whispers, "I do not understand Latin." Attila decides to go and listen to this extraordinary song and orders Orestes and his guard to follow him. When they approach the walls, the song becomes stronger and stronger. Attila stops at a shooting distance. On the flat top of a tower he sees a large female choir, led by a young woman in white clothes and golden hair. Attila lends an ear to the words. Beautiful female voices ask God to appease the wrath of Attila and save their city from destruction, their houses from fires, children and husbands of death. The Emperor Hun suddenly recalls his unforgettable Keriko, then poor Honoria. And her heart is tightened with unexpected compassion for those women who have managed to express their feelings at this hour of danger by singing from their souls. The woman in white clothes turns to Attila and politely greets him. After this, all the other women also greet him. The doors open and a priest comes out and addresses the Hun Emperor. "Great Emperor, King of the Huns, we ask you not to touch our little peaceful town, representing no danger to your army. We are ready to pay our modest tribute." Attila asks, "We are going to Orleans. Can you guarantee us that you will not attack our rear? City dwellers do not want to interfere in your struggle with Aetius. We solemnly declare that no soldier of the garrison will come out of our walls and participate in the war against you." Attila says with a smile, "Thank your women. They sing so well. It is Genevieve who organized the women and said that you are an educated man, believing as we do in a single God, that you could listen to our requests and our prayers. Our women prayed for several days and persuaded all residents to stay in the city. Thanks to her model life since her youth, the distribution to the poor of the heritage of her rich parents, her admirable visions and her capacities, she enjoys immense authority in Paris. It's very surprising. Convey my admiration for her extraordinary spirit, her deep faith and her wisdom. She saved the city. Attila waves his hand gently. Genevieve understands everything and gives a sign to the first singer, who begins with her beautiful voice a hymn of thanks. Attila and Orestes go up the hill. The emperor addresses the generals. We will not waste time and the lives of our warriors for a small fortress located on an island and fortifications surrounded by marshes. I command the armies to go to Orleans. Then he turns to Orestes. Take care of the management of the occupied territories, the communications and supply of the army, and the exportation of trophies, booty, and tributes from the cities of Gaul. In the evening Attila dines with his generals in a tent erected on the banks of the Seine. Edicon notes, I find that the water of this river is very pure, pleasant to drink. Orestes comes alive. That is what the Emperor Julian thought of this river, whose water is as clear as it is savory. He particularly loved this city and the manners of the inhabitants, where he was proclaimed Augustus by his army. They say he was a great worshipper of the sun. Wonges corrects him. Julian believed in the Neoplatonic God, of which the sun is the living and beneficent image. Attila concludes, I am glad to spare this town. I have always appreciated this emperor. Sober and honest, with the manners of the ancient Romans. But Julian, so righteous with his subjects, was very cruel to the Persians, whose towns were destroyed, and the inhabitants massacred without any pity before undergoing a defeat, fatal to him. Wonges adds, Trajan, who is considered by the Romans as the best of princes, virtuous, holy, and in all likeness to the gods, with his army of 200,000 men in Iran, then under Parthian rule, exterminated without pity the defenseless population and destroyed holy cities. Fleeing the victorious Parthian cavalry, Trajan gave the order to burn and destroy everything, to ravage the public gardens, to pollute the wells, to break the irrigation canals. Before crying out for the cruelty of the Huns, the Romans must remember a little of their history. A day later, there was no more Hun warriors around. Paris celebrates the miracle 3 days and 3 nights. The young Genevieve became the idol of the city dwellers and the living protective of Paris.